basically, the best way to cook steak, in my opinion, is you dry it. So to say you're taking out the packet, I would take mine out of the packet. Mine's preferably a fillet.
Standard.
A lot of people prefer a ribeye, but I just prefer a fillet. So fillet, it comes out of the packet, it's wet. I'll dry it with kitchen towel. I'll salt it and leave it to get to room temp. So it never gets to really room temp. People make out that it takes like, I'll leave it out for 20 minutes because room temp. It won't.
It won't.
But the reason, and people are like, oh, why would you take it to room temp? You take it to room temp because when you don't, the heat really doesn't penetrate. So you need like a scorching, if you want to get a crust, you need like a scorching hot pan. And if you want to get a real good crust and actually not fuck up the flavor, you need to use a high smoke point oil. So an avocado oil or a coconut oil is really, really good. If you use olive oil, the olive oil and the pan's hot enough, the olive oil is just going to burn. Butter will also burn. So we'll get to the butter part later. So pat dry, salt, leave to hit room temp. Once you've done that, pat it dry again, because then if you put it in there when you haven't pat it dried again, so the salt's going to get all the water out of it. So when you salt it and leave it to the side, when you check it again, it's going to be wet again. If you put that straight in there, it's going to the water's just going to evaporate and it's going to steam it. And then when you flip it, it's just going to be gray. It's not going to have a crust because it's just been like boiling in its own like water. So pat it dry again, roaring hot. Put the steak in, and then I do like a minute and flip, and you should have like a nice crust. And then I do another minute to get the other crust. Once I've done both minutes, turn it down, and then we go in with the butter. I turn it down and take it off the heat to let it cool down, because then again, if you put the butter in now, it's gonna fucking burn the butter immediately.
Okay.
So I'll put the butter in, a healthy amount of butter in, with usually like rosemary and garlic, and then we'll just butter baste. And you need to air, again, the butter will still burn if you don't aerate the butter. So when you see people basting steaks and it's like foamy, it's aerating the butter, which also stops it from burning, which you can keep the pan quite hot. But if you let the butter stagnate, it will burn. So baste, flip, baste, about a minute side, a minute side, a minute side, a minute side. I'm actually not very good at this whole, you know, when people like,
oh, I don't do that.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'd like, a lot of people would be like, oh, this is fucking rare. This is fucking well done.
So like when you do this, is this?
Yeah.
You feel the pressure on here or something like that.
Some bullshit like that. Yeah. I'm not good at that. I don't, something with my body doesn't relate feel to feel.
Yeah, I just time it.
Yeah. I just time it based on, I've cooked enough steaks that I can base it on the
shrinkage or whatever.
Shrinkage and like how thick the steak is on how long it's gonna
take. Yeah.
So anyway, base, flip, base, flip, base. Now, I like my shit like medium rare. So then you take it out, and then I take it out of the pan, and will just pour the butter over it and just leave it there to rest. Now, the reason why you need to let it hit room temperature is because you will. If you do it straight out the fridge and it's cold, you can do all these things, but the coldness will just repel the heat from penetrating. So the worst thing you can do is take it straight out of the fridge, do all these things, and you can still do it exactly the same. And then you'll take it out of the pan. You can even rest it. And then when you cut into it, you'll notice that it has like a really gray, really gray, and then pink. Fucking purpley pink, and then gray again. And then what you want is the best one is obviously just like the smallest hair of gray around the outside, and then just plush pink all the way through. And the only way to get that is to consistently flip it, but also you've done that 20 minutes to let the coldness escape it, so that when it cooks, the heat penetrates evenly through the steak. Yeah. And then when you've rested it, it keeps it juicy because it absorbs all of the juices again. If you take it out and then cut it immediately, all the blood will just go everywhere.
Yeah.
And then like the flavor is gone and just like everything, and then it goes dry really, really, really quickly as well. So that's my way to cook a steak.